All right, again, welcome everyone to this special presentation regarding Elliott Wave crypto. I hope, hopefully, I don't have to introduce myself. I assume most of you guys know who I am, but I'm that guy they keep. Whoops, that's not what I mean to do. Present. All right. Yeah, hopefully, I don't have to introduce myself. I'm that guy they keep in the corner doing the crypto stuff. I of course pop into the other rooms now and then to say hello and talk about what I'm trading, but the basic content of this presentation, let me get this thing going. I'm of course going to go through my latest on GBTC, Bitcoin, where we're at in this market. But a lot of this too is reviewing kind of where the services come, the challenges we've had, as well as what's worked. This may, there may be less interest for those that are here just to get my take on the market, but I'm going to talk about what I think achieving success is in the crypto, or what's going to help you achieve success in the crypto service. Obviously, that's aimed at current members, but if anyone is thinking about joining the service, I want to make sure that at least they have some kind of elements to help them succeed. And then finally, we're going to talk about the algos in the service, because that is the big change because of the challenges we've had with the way that Bitcoin has been moving, as well as, honestly, I'm just going to say crap altcoins that have really not gone anywhere, much of anywhere, since 2018. I've introduced this quantitative systems or algo trading, or whatever you want to call it, to help us get signals on the market. And by and large, it's been a pretty nice success, although it's really only started in March, so it's not a huge test period, so to speak. So we'll talk about that, and that may interest a lot of people that are interested in the service. Of course, it's being recorded, so if you want to look at the price updates and drop off, no, you're not offending me. No worries. I understand that to be the case for some people, but you can always get the recording afterwards. So it's kind of the kitchen sink thrown in, but I do hope it helps all folks, so to speak. So let's jump into. Let me actually get out of this and then go to Elliott Wave, Motive Wave, and just talk about where we are price action wise. As I've said in recent webinars, I mean, the giant opportunity we have in Bitcoin is Bitcoin, by and large, with its very large bull flag. I mean, I can back up this chart and you can see that, at one point in time, Bitcoin traded at 0.3 of a cent. No joke. And here we are, talking about 5-figure Bitcoin. And, we've held $3,000 since the high in 2018. However, that opportunity remains and will remain for a period of time. You guys may think I'm crazy, but I still believe this market's in a B-wave structure, simply because after putting in 5 waves potential 5 waves, but is probably not actually 5 waves in 2019, we fell beyond the 764 retrace, which was the first warning. And then since then, we've followed 3-wave structures. It is possible to kind of eke out 5-wave structures out of there, but one of the most reliable measures of sets up for a third wave in Bitcoin is a very clear 5-wave below the 764 extension. And I forget exactly where that is now, but it was way down here. And so we saw a corrective pattern up into that 764 or 76618 extension and 764 extension. So it's sort of the ship has sailed in terms of calling this impulse. So I'm still tracking a B wave, although the big trick we had was when I expected a good drop to 5K in the June period, it turned right back around and broke out. And obviously we're tracking now a large weekly breakout. Now I do not see this finishing unless we're in this orange triangle. I don't see it finishing south of 25K, and it would be much cleaner to hit 34K, 56K. Remember, B waves have no problem whatsoever breaking out over previous highs, which was at 19K in January 2018. Regardless, I mean, the one challenge this has presented to a lot of members is that I will ride a B wave up till it comes off the train. And so personally, I've done very well in this year. Actually, it's been one of my best years trading ever, not just in Bitcoin, but my trading's gotten better across all markets. I'll ride a B wave until the wheels come off. I mean, it's just the way that I have learned. B waves are very strong in crypto. We see running flats and expanded flats on all time frames. So I think it's just trained me to take that perspective. So if we dive in, let's get you guys can't see that window, but I can. We dive in. We are completing what looks like 5-wave structure. In fact, I won't belabor the micro, but in the micro, we're starting to overlap in what looks like a 5th wave ending diagonal. So we do appear to be forming some form of top here. However, given A equals C projections, we really should hit this box, which is 20K, but the 100%, that's the 764, and the 100% is at 25K. And then if we end up with a 1-2 here, which is what I'm watching for at least, we should extend well into 35K. So we'll see if it holds there. Again, remember in triangles that often the C's can truncate, I shouldn't say truncate, but shorten compared to the A, and so that would fit us underneath the B. I just doubt this triangle at this point in time. It would be an ascending triangle. It's getting a little bit late to see it, so I do doubt it. But if we do end up failing in the wave 2 support, which I have it at right now at 10,890, I believe, right off the bat. So if we're to have topped already, but we don't have any real sign of a top, I would need a break of 12,700 to say we for sure in that wave 2, or at least got to test that wave 2 to see if it holds. And we haven't gotten anywhere near that in the last few days. We just have a bunch of overlapping up here. So that's the take as we, again, the other, again, an alternative, I haven't put the bullish alternative on here. One bullish alternative is that we are in a large ending diagonal in the primary 5th wave, meaning the 4, but that would be an awfully small 4th wave if the case, given the size of that 5th wave. So I'd be surprised by that. It could actually be primary 5th or 5th of our 3rd. There on the weekly chart, I have 2 ways of counting it. It is possible that we are doing that. And if the case, then we can draw a channel through all of this, and we will hold a 4th wave up here around 20K if we were to jump straight through to 40 and then get that 5th wave, which would end this bull run. So that's possible, but again, I don't see any way to form a clean impulse out of this. So I'm still riding stops up to hop off this train for good, and support levels can be depending on the structure. If we have a running flat, it could be somewhere around 6,000 for the end of the 4th. If we have an expanded flat, we could end up dropping down to 2,000 to even a tad bit lower than that. So there's quite a range that we're dealing with in terms of Bitcoin structure. Again, I define all of this structuring here in 2020 as corrective in the most orthodox sense, at least using Fibonacci pinball and classic Elliott wave. But if it, as long as it's running, we'll stay on the train. So GBTC real quick. Again, you could really see, I want to point out, really clearly see the 3-wave start here that we had. Let me get you guys a better view. I always struggle with, oh, there we go. Very clear ABC here into the A wave. It's a lot more defined than Bitcoin, and then overlapping structure out of it. But right now we've got a big channel break. So it's very similar. No sign of a top. I think it's right off the bat, 1675 is the first sign, and I think it's 14 something where we confirm a top in the circle 1. Until then, this is hard to define in terms of sub counts. So without breaking of support, I'm not going to sit here and call a top to this. I mean, it's starting to its own A equals C boxes getting close, and so but it would be better for it to ride at least a 30 before a major top, whether it be through just continuing to subdivide higher or filling in this a very clear, larger, clear 5-wave structure. So that's what we're looking at. Again, same thing here. Now, GBT is funny because this looks like 3 waves in the first wave. So it could be, even if we were to continue higher, marching higher, it may take on a diagonal structure in a very large macro sense. So this could be the A, B, and then a large 3rd when Bitcoin is in its primary 5th. Again, hopefully everyone remembers, but my primary 5th target, just as a nominal target in Bitcoin, is 250K. Again, it is just simply my thesis that we're going to have to wait a couple years after seeing the structure that we've got in 2019, 2020, and maybe longer than a couple years. But So we'll see a lot of oscillation in this region before finally get that big takeoff in the primary fifth. So, and 250 is for sure a minimum expectation, because Bitcoin does have a tendency to have extended fifths on a lot of time frames, and sometimes very minimal fourth waves. So it maybe, another quick little discernible fourth before it makes the major run. But again, we got to get through kind of the mush that we have here. Strong mush that's breaking out on a weekly basis, but still it's pretty mushy in terms of its overall structure from an elevated perspective. All right, so any questions on that before I move on to the next topic? Again, I know a lot of folks came for that, so if you do have any questions before you lose me, let me know. You can hang around till the end, and I can answer them as well. I mean, a lot of people, have remained extremely surprised by holding on to a B wave structure, but again, I still look at the entire base as a corrective structure. But again, we'll ride it until it really breaks down. It's just riding tight support up as we go, which right now, again, 10,880, is really the only thing that is really where it really needs to breach to break down into this 5 to 6 region now at this point in time. I missed some of this. Is it be recorded? Yeah. This whole thing will be recorded for sure. Good entry points for BTC. Well, so I mean, it's been really hard. So it would be really nice to get 10.8 at this point in time. I would be pretty aggressive in that area, but the beginning of support in the wave 2 is at 12.7. To be honest, if you don't have a position in BTC altogether, I would add a small one for sure, because as we've moved into breakout, it gets a lot more elusive. I mean, as I said, we can continue to subdivide very tight as we go, and we could be in 30 in GBTC, and we could be in 25K and no time flat in BTC. So if you don't have a position, put on a little, think about it. It's just that you got to realize where things break, and right now that's 10,880. We may see that level and test that level or not. This market's been very aggressive, and we kind of have air above us at this point in time, except for the 19,000 high that we had in 2017. So I could give you a better answer if we started pulling back, but we haven't yet. So my advice always is to get a position of some kind. If you're aching for one, just make sure it's manageable, for taking heat down to 10,880. Again, I wouldn't say a breach of. Let me make one point about support. That's the 764 retrace of the fifth wave we have. The last I checked, the real breaking point is when we see this B wave low. Sorry, that breaks, then we've basically invalidated this 5 waves for anything other than a C wave completion. So if that breaks, then we should be down in the 4 to 5 region with the potential to get worse. So you can trade against that, and so again, have a small position and then scale in if we do start to pull back. Just managing those levels, 10,880, and then the bottom there, managing against those levels. So, and again, until the market pulls back, it's pretty tough. All right, any other questions before I move on to the next topic? I'm going to turn off this price action. If you have more questions, I can come back. So it's not really a problem, but good change. So that's that. Just real quick, let me get this on. I'm going to talk real quick about what hasn't worked well in the service. When we first started, there was a big push to have some long-term portfolios. I certainly answered that call. As I think what we've seen in cryptos is that the whole entire asset class is experimental. Really, the only track record that's been proven is Bitcoin in terms of lasting and a lot of institutional interest. So we dropped that a long time ago. I just don't hold long-term portfolios. They're not tax efficient without taking a ton of heat. A lot of those altcoins have not come back out of 2018. I told everyone in I think it was like roughly June or August in 2018, I'm selling all my altcoins. I made a very good, a very high percentage profit in 2017. So I was down to just stuff that I own for free, so to speak. And I said, you know what, this stuff may never come back the way this bear market is shaping up. But I focused on Bitcoin. Ethereum as well probably falls into the Bitcoin category, and there are some new altcoins that are very promising. So I don't want to say every altcoin is bad, but it's something we've ditched from the portfolio. Another thing I've been very good at talking about my exact positions, but they're never really, and I'm just announcing here is like, you know what, I just think it's bad practice because people tend to copy. I do a lot of hedging. I buy options. I do all sorts of things to manage my positions. So I don't think anybody should ever copy my position per se, though it may, I don't mind expressing my attitude about the market in terms of how much risk I'm taking on all that stuff. Um, but I think that needs to kind of be dropped as a practice, to be honest. So that's where I'm at. But the last thing is, the difficult, as I've expressed the price action, I think one of the most difficult things about this service, and it's funny because the service has been very successful. It's actually one of the larger ones on Elliott Wave Trader at this point. But we've had ABC structures in crypto since 2018, largely with some very strong moves, obviously. But Elliott Wave, and this is why I'm brutally honest about Elliott Wave analysis. It's very difficult on ABC structures. Its edge drops immensely. When you get the 1-2 setups for the C's, that's where the strength comes in. But sometimes you're tracking an ABC, you expect a top, then it puts in a B wave, and then it breaks out again in a larger C wave. I mean, ABCs have a way of either failing right after the C wave or sort of unfolding into another corrective structure. And we saw that in 2018. Counts changed a lot because of that structure. And we're seeing it now in 2020. I mean, again, if you saw my last webinar, I'm always honest about it. I expected a break after the June drop. I expected a drop all the way down to 5,500 at least. And then we turned right back around after we hit 8,500. And again, we turned around off of an AB. It still has a corrective structure, but we broke out into a large C wave, where we find ourselves now. And that C wave may unravel into a large diagonal. There's really very little predictive edge from Elliott Wave as long as you're in ABCs. When we follow very clean impulses, then the edges increase. So that's why a lot of the service I'm moving to a mix of Elliott Wave. I still trade Elliott Wave across all markets, so I'm just being honest about its weaknesses in terms of getting an edge. And when you're dealing with something that can move 300% on a A-B structure, you want to capture it. I mean, this is one of my main income sources, and it's also what I do for a living. So that's why I moved a lot of my decision making from an Elliott Wave based to a machine learning algo perspective. So we'll talk about that as we get into it and how that affects the service. I want to talk about formulas for success for folks. Again, I think it's really important to understand my bias. I don't treat Elliott Wave. I mean, Elliott Wave has predictive qualities, and so don't take this the wrong way. But I don't really treat it that way from a practical sense. I don't trade primary versus alt counts. I get asked, which is your primary? It's like, well, I don't really think about it that way. I think about the skew that they are revealing. Elliott Wave is excellent at defining skew. What does that mean? Where your stop is versus your reward. And it's very, very easy to take Elliott Wave and define a very tight risk to reward trade. If you get used to trading 2-to-1, preferably 3-to-1, and then you're going to be successful a long period of time. If you have 3-to-1 skew edge, then you can miss 70% of your trades and sort of skirt by. I've had profitable quarters off being 70% incorrect because I'm so religious about capturing the skew. And so I always advise people, man, drop that probability sense where you're looking for a number. Oh, this is 50% likely to go or 70%. Drop that and learn to trade skew and learn how to use Elliott Wave to the best of that ability, and you will be successful in trading long term because your trades are always in your advantage in terms of that risk to reward. Okay, so that's something I always say. Just know that about me. Again, I have very little interest in saying which one is high probability necessarily, although I'll tell you, it doesn't. I may fade the one that looks high probability when the skew of the other one, the alt, is better. It's just I want to capture the skew, and I trade that versus being concerned about always being right. And again, some people are so uncomfortable with that, but I like people to understand that about me, and it has done me well in terms of profitability. The next one is you really got to understand your time frame, and I can't I can sense people's time frames, and I can sometimes sense when people are trading against their own skill level and time frame, and they're trying really hard. And I think learning is good, but you got to size down, you got to use less, and you got to dispense your emotions when you're trying something new. That is super necessary. But you really got to know this about yourself, and if you don't know this about yourself, try some things. Paper trade. You can always learn with money, but don't spend too much learning. Um, it's better paper trade and figure that out. Of course, you never really know until you have real money on the table. I trade all time frames, and you have to know that about myself. But it's really important. So what I did was divide this into success for long termers, success for the swing traders, success for the scalpers, because the service covers all that really. Partly because I'm in all that. I trade multiple time frames, but it's just helping you guys understand that. So long termers, you got to focus on three elements: nightly reports, Sunday reports in particular. Okay, so nightly reports, we give the latest on the micro, but you do want to try to extrapolate where you are. And so if you're looking for a long-term entry, you don't have one, and you've missed the train or something, you can kind of discern it from the micro. So it's good to come into the nightly report with that question. But the Sunday reports is of course, when I look at now, it's a new adaptation. I look at the long term. I look for, do we need to make any changes about it? And long term with Bitcoin is usually the next 6 months, but because it's so volatile. But you really should focus there. And I found a lot of people just are not. There is certainly criticism for the way my style of writing, and I've received a lot of that, and I'm trying to get better at that. But I have also seen many are not able to extrapolate entries from the nightly report if they don't have a position long term. So try to do that, but ask a lot of questions in that regard, because I'm there to help. First 15 minutes of the weekly webinar. I've realized recently that a lot of long-termers don't watch the webinar. Catch the first 15 minutes. I review the long-term and long-term tactics. I do both of those right in the beginning. And so if you haven't done that, take that first 15 minutes. I do it every month, every week, and and those are Saturday mornings, and they're recorded if you didn't get them. But try to get there and ask questions, and then you can drop off. Like I'm not offended if you drop off 15 minutes in. And then lastly, notifications on swing. Swing trades is kind of a funny thing, because if swing trades often turn to long-term positions. So you may not be a swing trader, but those swing trade notifications may be that entry you need. Again, if you don't have one, if you are sitting tight with a nice swing entry, then or a nice long-term entry, or you have a healthy position, to worry about it. But you may want to use swing trades for those long-term positions. And then again, if you're a long-termer, don't spend time on the site and don't read my posts, because during the intraday, when I'm day trading SPX or adjusting my GDX positions, I'm posting scalping trades on crypto, and you don't need to pay attention to them. So swing traders. Oh, I didn't mention algos here, but I think for long-termers, the algos, the Bitcoin core algo has been actually made for you guys. So I was surprised to hear that many didn't take a position on our recent Bitcoin algo core algo signal, and so that's for you. It is kind of it can turn into a swing trade, meaning it maybe only lasts for 6 weeks or whatever, but it's a key entry notification. You have to decide what to do with it if it stops out. But it tends to be many days. I mean, how long have we been sitting on the last one? So it's there for you. So I didn't mention that, but that's important. So swing traders, again, turn on those notifications. Elliott wave based swing trades have been so rare in 2020. We had them in 2019, and that's simply because we're not following an impulse. I have not posted a lot of swing trades that were based on Elliott wave. I've mostly been giving algo signals. I mean, I hate that, but it's the reality of this market. It's moving in ABCs. Certainly, if we get the pullback into the 12,000 region, 11,000 region, even to the 13,000 region, I will post a swing scale in long for the breakout to 24K. That doesn't mean it will hold 10,880 support, but I will post it for sure, because we have a very clean 5 waves off of 9,800, and as long as we hold 2, then we should roll out into another impulse into a weekly breakout again. So we'll post that when we get it, but again, I don't post crappy setups in the swing trade, because I have to manage all the stops and whatnot, and And I also, every time I post a swing trade, it's making a statement that it's a pretty good trade. We have not had a lot of great lasting trades in crypto, even though Bitcoin has continued up higher. It has twisted and turned in very wicked ways. If you are unfamiliar with my style, using Elliott Wave on my YouTube channel is a great video that everyone should watch, because I talk about entries, exits, technicals, and all of that stuff from my approach to trading. I use it on all markets. It's not everything, but it's the basics. It kind of is the chassis behind my trading, and then the rest is improvisation, so to speak. So I would check it out using Elliott Wave on my YouTube channel. And then lastly, I missed this, but some scalps turn into swings. I can't make a scalp turn into a swing. So if you are a swing trader, you might want to try some scalping, because sometimes you just roll that stop and roll that stop and roll that stop, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's just sometimes the way the market works out. And we've had some good ones, but they haven't gone into the notifications simply because I didn't expect them to be good trades. It's just the way it is. I expected them to be very short term, and then pretty soon you find that you're rolling that stop, and oh man, we just made 3-to-1 reward on the risk. So it just works out that way sometimes, and I can't control that. That is not, especially when the market is moving in ABCs. And then lastly, scalpers. I did a picture real quick, but intraday posts are for scalpers. I'm trying to add the scalpers only tag. I'm not very good at it. It's kind of the new habit that isn't locked in yet, but you guys can call me out. They're often ABC structures, so we're scalping symmetry. Still Elliott Wave is actually really great at identifying symmetry. So these are all Elliott Wave based. But I want to emphasize that I've seen a lot of subscribers who don't have the patience for scalping, don't have the skill set, or are just learning, developing the skill set. Just self-regulate yourself, please. Sometimes these go hot, and then sometimes I will run several losses. Me personally, when I'm scalping, I'm supersized down. Okay, so if I have a cold run, I recover. I think some people just oversize, get overly emotional, and if you're in that situation, honestly, I would ask that you not follow. Just being honest, because it's really hard to also become a counselor if we have a bad run. I don't want to have to do that. Okay, I edit stops, but again, remember, 24-hour may require you to self-serve your stops. Again, you can use that. Even on scalping, the same process applies that I described for stops in using Elliott Wave on my YouTube channel, which again, if you're not interested in crypto, really, you're just here to explore, you might want to watch that video as well. Any questions before I move on to the next section? Because we're going to talk algos next. Let's see, for total newbies to crypto like me, what's the best resource way to learn enough to make use of your service? I have a intro to crypto trading on the site. I'll put the link in here. I'll find it and then post it, or I'll post it we'll figure it out. Somehow we'll get that to you. But I talk about, if you've never traded cryptos, what exchanges you might think about, and et cetera, et cetera. And it should help you then. I have a doc on security. So there you go. I've been labeling the Bitcoin wave here now as a wave 303. Yeah, and that again, that some people are saying that, but I do not. I just disagree, Charles. I simply disagree, because it started with 3 waves off the low in March, and I cannot call this a third wave if you start 3 waves off the low and you don't put in the 5 waves by the 618 extension. Cryptos are really reliable in that regard. And so if I'm wrong, I continue to break out, well, we just roll up the stop. But especially now when we have a nice impulsive C, but I just do not see it that way. And there's lots of people that disagree with me on that for sure. From a long-term perspective, would anything invalidate your call for a 4th wave bottom in 2022 of 3K? Yeah, not getting there. So again, I always trade what's in front of me. Okay. And so before I'm even worrying about a 4th wave bottom in 2022, which of 3K, is, do we break support in this B wave? And right now we have a support at 10,880. So 3K is not even on my mind now, because we're in a weekly breakout. Okay. once we're I roll up I call it the 50% stop. So once we bottom in a little wave 2 here, again holding 10,880, I roll 50% stop, and until that 50% stop breaks, there's no talk of 3K. Okay, and if we have a running flat, which if we go back to my price structure, if we have a running flat for this 4, it will never get to 3K. That 4 will be up here, roughly around 5 to 6. And running flats are really common in crypto once we break out in a high B, and that's what we're doing right now. We haven't broken out yet. We still haven't taken out that 19K high, but once cryptos break into a high B, it's very often that the C wave never gets as low as the A. Okay, and so I have the wave 4 down here, but it may never get there because it could simply do a C wave down to 5, 6K and then be off and running to $250,000. So don't, again, it depends on. I mean, I'll project an A equals C down and we'll put a big box. That box, if this B is way up at 50K, which is completely possible given crypto and its behavior, its normal behavior, that 4 could be way up here. Okay, so I can show you I can dig into price action from way in the past and show you running flats. So they're super common. Ether does the same thing. Some alts do the same thing. In fact, I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with YFI. It looks like it's trying for running flat. Maybe even Link right now is trying for running flat for a little push. So really common. So in validation, yeah, it's really reasonable that we never see 3K again. I don't think we won't see 10K again, which is the talk on Twitter. I disagree with that, but we'll see. How do you see that jiving with the mass exchange accumulation that's going on? I trade price and not like a lot of those shadows. All it takes is a bunch of big hedge funds to lighten up, to change all of that. Remember, this is a very low liquidity market. If you get a couple big funds who just want to take profit at 56, that accumulation goes upside down really fast. Okay. Unfortunately, we're in a market that we have to be down for surprises. There's massive accumulation through a lot of this, and yet here we had in March, a complete liquidation. So don't sit on a market that's running hard and don't expect it to run. The other thing I need to say is a lot of the accumulation in the crypto market is OTC, which means it's not affecting price. It's indirect supply drop, but it's not actually affecting price, because to affect price, you got to be on the book, you got to be on the order book, you got to be taking some of the liquidity off the sell side. So it's again, I don't have to justify it. It's again, run up support, and as long as they're over support, I'm not going to be worried about 3K. So that's I need to make a point about that, because a lot of subscribers say, Ryan's expecting a B wave and they kept themselves out of the market. I don't trade that way. To me, a upward structure is upward structure. I'm on the train and then I ride up support. Okay, and then until support breaks, again, like I said, it's possible that this is a big third wave in a diagonal. Again, I do not think this is an impulse, but that means that the 4 is way up here. If it's diagonal, you can draw a channel slanted. Again, this is where Elliott wave struggles, because we're dealing with 3-wave structures in here. It's going to struggle with what the scenario is, because 3 waves can be diagonals, triangles, and flats. So that's the struggle I have with Elliott wave, and that's why, and especially when I'm dealing with it on a large scale, that's why I've got to these kind of algo signals and added that to service, so that we have an extra approach. Okay. What is your strategy to not miss the altcoin run when it happens? If we start to set up, honestly, I'm trading some altcoins like Link because it's near breakout levels, and instantly I have a target of 100 on Link. But look at some charts like Ripple that's in strong downtrend. It's pushing against it right now, so I may scalp it long. But until we have a large scale setup, I have no interest. I may miss some pops, but I have no problem with missing pops if they look to be short lived. So I don't know what you mean by strategy. If there's a real impulsive setup, then I have no problem being long. And again, my leaning on Link has been long, even though I see a strong chance it goes to 3. It just hasn't set up and stayed in the setup for 3. So I'm super nimble. I realized some subscribers said, "Man, you're changing your mind again." It's like, well, I trade what's in front of me at the time, and if I had a setup down and then it breaks it, then I got to think about up, and then I got to think about an entry up if I really want to. But I pass on a lot of those because I'm not personally as focused on catching very fleeting pops versus accumulating, say, Bitcoin for the long term. That's my strategy. So some people don't like my approach to flipping over when I need to, or just not as nimble as I am, I guess, is the other approach. Are you seeing a run for potential 3K bottom all the way to 2K? Again, back to that previous question, 3K is not a given now that we're breaking out on the weekly, but I do see it pretty like a strong chance that we get pullbacks to 5 or 6 all the way from 50K is still a potential. But again, until we do, doesn't matter. But yeah, certainly wherever that wave 4 bottom is, whether it be a running flat way up here or way down at 3K, then the long-term chart suggests at least 250K and maybe beyond. So, again, I don't suggest personally holding out for 3K because that's what I'm hearing in some of these questions, and I would not suggest that. But you do have to just be aware of that potential if we start to break support off of this weekly. And that's again back to a lot of people seeing that 3K stay out of the market and wait for it. The problem is in cryptos, when you're moving in threes, you start to mess with that structure, and it's very questionable now for sure that it's all the way down at 3K. Again, if it's an expanded flat, it will be, but I can't predict an expanded flat versus a running flat. And if you're not familiar with those terms, I would do a quick reading on our site. Newbie here, is GBTC the best issue to use to participate in Bitcoin? For me, the best issue to participate in Bitcoin is Bitcoin. But GBTC is a good one. You just realize that you're buying in an involving premium, so it'll move between I think this year the range was 6% all the way up to 25% premium over the Bitcoin that's in the fund. So you just got to be aware of that. I mean, I covered on the service, and I'm aware of the premium. And sometimes we do premium trades where we short Bitcoin and do the long GBTC, but yeah, just be aware. If there is no way to pull back and you have a position now or soon, how would you figure out the structure in GBTC, BTC, and more to the point? To me, it's just writing up support. So again, the nearest support is 12.7. It's completely reasonable given this AB that we continue to march upward and get a really long C out of it, and it hardly has any definable pullback. So the first support again is 12.7. Until 12.7 breaks, there is no one top. Okay, we need confirmation. There's no one top until 12.7 breaks. Okay, at least a reliable one. So until then, I'm assuming marching up. I'm assuming it's going to keep going up until some support breaks. My position's a little bit lighter, and I have some altcoin shorts to kind of hedge, but they're not big enough to drop profit if we keep marching. But that's my way of managing versus, I will wait for support breaks, and I also trade on leverage. So as we're dropping into below 12, then I'll be leveraging up at the right times, when it looks like we're reversing. So, to me, it's just letting the market show where it's going to top right now versus trying to say it should top. I just see a completed 5 waves, and then on a micro, you can see I can do it quick. You can see that it's overlapping. You're overlapping a ton up here. Okay, so that may be an ending diagonal, or we could be in a B wave and already in this correction, but we just haven't dropped. Again, B waves in crypto pushing over the top is really, really common. So. But if we push over one more high, then we have an ending diagonal, and then we'll see if it proves it by dropping through the channel. Right now, we're just kind of floating up in this channel. So that's a very toppy pattern, but until it breaks 12.7, and then there's a warning down here at, I think it's like 14.5, my numbers are being blocked by GoTo, but then there's no top. I mean, there's no top until there's a top, and we have had no confirmation whatsoever. So I agree about accumulation happening on true, but I guess I was referring to supply of BTC on exchanges steadily and consistently dropping from 296 to 237 That's not very big for the Bitcoin market, honestly. I mean, so 296 million to 2.37, that's a small portion of the crypto market and a small portion of the Bitcoin market, to be honest. I mean, we're over a billion market cap. But again, any fund that wants to sell can burn through that really fast, because one thing that's happened with the OTC market is that supply is being pulled off the market. Not to mention retailers have burned themselves on altcoins over the last few years, and a lot of them are in lifetime downtrends. So again, I hear a lot about the alt party, but I've been hearing that since 2018. I heard about the alt party a lot in 2019. I'm hearing about it again, and yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, and I'll chase it when I see it. But there's no sign of it right now, except for a few strong ones like Link and watching a few DeFi coins to see what they can do. But to be honest, I don't know. That's not very big to me, to be honest. If too many people are counting on something, it never happens for sure. I mean, a lot of people are saying right now a weekly breakout in Bitcoin, and it's going to go. I mean, there's still conservative targets in my terms, 30, 50, whatever, but it's clear that everyone's chasing now, and honestly, the volume isn't that strong compared to previous. And then in terms of the alt parties, man, I've been hearing that for years now, and a lot of those guys are not coming back. Just look based on structures. Just a comment on a question: what potentially needs to be addressed? Ryan, do you track miners? Yeah, like Riot and Hut. Yeah, we track them. I track them in the service. I mean, Hut is in bad shape chart wise. Riot is pretty good shape, but it's well, short term, but it's very diagonal. So I don't personally trade them. The other thing is I have to say about mining is it's a terrible business, because think about it that as Bitcoin is rising, network difficulty rises too, which means that a lot of those companies can't hold on to the profit during Bitcoin's bull runs. They really don't capture it unless they have a really strong hedging program. Where a gold miner is different. So a gold miner buys, their mining costs are fixed no matter what the price of gold is. So when gold is rising, they just accumulate that profit. Well, with Bitcoin, mining gets more difficult when Bitcoin goes up in price, makes it a terrible business model. So I don't personally invest in mining. I have, but I just don't touch it. I mean, I have enough risk in crypto. I have the pure stuff. Really don't have much interest. Now, I do track. Now we track Square because they have a large Bitcoin investment. I may add PayPal as a service. We have tracked Silvergate Bank. That has been a great trade, even though I was conservative on it because it's a very micro cap. But they run like the payment system for a lot of the crypto exchanges across the world, and then do some custody stuff and whatnot. And they're just rolling. It's a value stock, really pretty amazing. They're not in mining, so I cover stuff like that. So it's Galaxy. Another one is Galaxy, and it's based on the Canadian exchange, which is OTC liquidity provider. They don't do any mining. They're not in that business. So I have really no interest in mining, but we cover some other crypto stocks which are really interesting. So I'll continue to do that. All right, so let's get to algos real quick, guys, so that we can talk about price later as we go. So using algo systems signals. So again, this is an add-on to the service to balance again the problematic structure we have. It will give warnings if we're going to break down. It was all of this work started. It was in my head, but all of this work, and I had done some early work, but when the March breakdown happened, it's like, man, I want a better edge. And again, I actually warned starting in March that the crypto market was going to be difficult from an Elliott wave perspective. We retraced more than 764, and then we rallied in 3-wave structures. I'm like, this is going to be a crappy year. And I didn't say it's going to be a crappy year in terms of not gaining, market's not going to break out. It's just the Elliott wave edge goes down when you have those sorts of structures. Fibonacci pinball, Avi's work. Honestly, crypto follow that work better than any asset class I've seen personally. Again, and I trade across a lot of things. Cryptos have classically followed Avi's work just to the T, but not when they're in 3-wave structures. And so that's another evidence. When I'm way off in terms of counts, that just means we're in an ABC structure. It's just the way it is. So I worked on this to to kind of solve that for the service. And it's been successful. So we'll talk about that. We'll show results. Subscribers should decide up front how much of their portfolio they want to dedicate to the algos. Whatever, 25, 30%. I mean, for Bitcoin, using my core algo, it's all in, which is nuts, but I'm that confident in it. Although the core algo is going to get retired soon for something better, or at least that's what's happening or trying to do. What you don't want to do is avoid decision conflicts caused by Elliott wave and algo conflicts. So this has been a misunderstanding, and I want to say very clearly, if you want to trade the algos, take a portion, dedicate it to the algo, right size it. I'm going to do better and better for giving stats, so you can measure your risk in it based on its past stats. The early ones don't have the best because of the machines I was using, the approach, but my tools are getting better and better. Even the core algo didn't even have machine learning. The first GBTC algo did, but anyway, we'll get there. So avoid decision conflicts. Take some of your portfolio for Elliott wave signals, whatever time frame you're talking about, and take others for algo approach. You don't want to mix it. I made the mistake recently of getting out of the GBTC Momo algo signal because I didn't like the way the Elliott wave structure is in GBTC. That was a bad move. We kept marching up, right? That's where the algo had an edge and Elliott wave didn't. So some people know that I did that, and I cut my profit by doing that. I'm still in that trade, but only partial in terms of approach. Don't do what I did. Just do yourself a favor and basically partition the approach. So again, I plan to include risk management numbers in the future, including Sharpe ratio, Kelly criterion inputs to inform decisions. I might be able to, if you guys want me to add a measure, I might be able to, depending on my tools. You are listening to somebody who is not great at coding, but learning fairly quickly. But I have some tools with the help of a friend. Just so everyone knows, all of the stuff remains confidential because the group that I'm working in, it's kind of a working group, is outside of Elliott wave, and some of that may be monetized separately from Elliott wave. But right now, the big focus for me is keeping it in the service and building the service. So it's not like you guys will be kept from great work, but some of it is leading to automation stuff that just doesn't work for the service. It's where bots are basically trading on their own. So that stuff will not come to the service because it doesn't play out very well in terms of me posting signals. But the stuff that gives us some room to work in will become part of the service. The first results was the GBTC Momo. Momo is for momentum. In backtest, it had a 4x buy and hold. In backtest from the start of GBTC's trading to March 2020. It got tuned by machine learning with the help of a friend. I do think that we were sort of naive about machine learning as we went along, and then as we got better, we did some robustness tests, Monte Carlo simulation, and it's a little bit questionable whether it will continue to play out success, which is why I've aimed at retiring it for the GBTC Magic Bus. Which we'll talk about, which does hold up better. Live trading, we had 29.8% since March. We have a current unrealized return in a current trade of 57.6% from a recurrent trade. That was as of Sunday, so it's a little bit higher now. But I wrote this presentation last Sunday. The algo has lagged buy and hold consequentially or factually by about 20%. That's unfortunate, but it's partly because we haven't had the big dip that this algo is actually designed to avoid. We had no big dip since we started it, and so that's why it's lagged. It's pulled out of trades, and we didn't get the giant dip that it is trying to avoid, and which happens when momentum starts to lag. It jumps out, and then it went right back in and forced it back into trade. But honestly, that's the way it rolls. I mean, Bitcoin will dip big time when it's ready. It always has, and it will again, and it will probably pursue. Retirement is questionable now. We were talking about this on the service, and we may have it as a slow signal for slow positioning, and it's not locked in, but Magic Bus may be our fast positioning system. So we'll see how it goes. Again, incidentally, we'll get to Magic Bus. Magic Bus has had 3 trades, taken 3 in and outs with a good high percentage of return. during the whole time whole time Momo was in, and then it wasn't live, but Magic Bus got in before this live 57.6% trade that we're in right now. So Magic Bus is sort of fast in, fast out, but it's still the trades last for a while. And then the core algo. So the core algo suggests a 0, 50%, and 100% position. Actually, 0% has an edge in backtest on being short. I think it only lost a couple trades short in its past. It's a very slow signal. It only throws signals on a one-day close at 5 p.m. Pacific. Most days there's nothing. It outperformed buy and hold and backtest by 150%. So that's 1.56% times buy and hold. If that makes sense, just make sure that's clear. It's not like it's 156x. You guys should know that. It was tested from July 2017 to 425. Since my tools have advanced, I've done robustness tests on it. It's pretty good. It's actually still pretty good. So I'm slow to want to retire it, but I'm working up something that may be more interesting. Live realized it has lagged, and again, this one also is used to avoid the drops. Again, there's return versus buy and hold, but there's also market exposure. So this one limits market exposure, and so lagging a little bit is not terrible. Though the stat right here is a little funny because we had one of the signals straddled live and backtest, so it's actually really hard to get that accurate. So we can argue about how to calculate that. So it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's sitting on 35.7% unrealized return currently, so that trade is not closed. What did we say? The 50% signal, the move from 100% to 50%, I think today is at a 5 p.m. close below 13,195, I think, something like that. So as long as it's above that, it's going to remain at 100% exposure. So pretty good, but this one also is I'm looking at potentially retiring it for something better. Again, both of these algos, Momo and BC Core, have lag built in partly to stay in until momentum decays. They are different. They're different modes, but similar goals, and so they're not going to outperform buy and hold until we get a big drop, because they'll just jump out and they'll avoid it. Okay, so and a great example of where it would have benefited us was in March, because all of these algos shut off before the big March drop. Okay, so that's a great example, and that's why it was designed. Where Elliott Wave, you kind of want to catch the knife at support. These algos were both warning that no, we don't want to touch this yet. So they are both designed from that standpoint. This one again tests pretty well with machine learning going forward, but I'm still interested in getting something that's a little tighter. So Magic Bus. So again, you can see how my tools advanced. I have a lot more data now. So entire history with 60% sample and 40% out of sample has a Sharpe ratio of 2.22, win rates 53.49. Using 1,000 shares in tests, the average win is $504. The average loss 148. So again, some traders get irritated, but remember, most successful traders fall in the 50 to 60% rate, but have skew. So we have a decent win rate, and then we have a great skew, which is nearly 3 to 1. So that's exactly what we want. And then we had our live trades. So we have one open right now that I think closed with a small, tiny loss. But it has, in our live test so far, we've had a 66% win rate, average win of 1,000, again on 1,000 shares, 1,050, an average loss of this is one trade loss at $860. So not great skew, but better win rate. So just kind of funny how that works out. But this will be looked at every quarter. So if it starts to wander too much from its statistics, I'll look at reoptimization, retirement, or something else. So it'll be monitored. I mean, even honestly, if we started throwing warnings, like we're just getting a real cold run, then I would be starting to look at it already and putting on freeze. But you got to be careful doing that, because you can have a cold run and then average out back to the win rate or skew or whatever. So you got to be very careful with systematic trading. Very important to risk according to these stats and set your portfolio according to these stats, and then some. Give it some margin, and not look at these numbers and go, boom, I'm going to risk the farm on this. You really got to find the portfolio to right size. I like the Kelly criterion. So again, like to use an example, let's say I had a $100,000 portfolio. Let's say I'm going to take 10,000 of that versus for the signal, and then go from there applying the Kelly criterion. So you can see how I'm not going to blow up my account by applying those types of risk metrics. Okay, so that hopefully that makes sense. So once you do that, then if we have a cold period, then you can weather it before it returns to its normal statistical rate in the past. Okay. And then I've got like the back test, live test, so you'll get a link to this so you guys can take a look at it. These are the real numbers. So this is the core algo, 0, 50, 100, and then the latest, and we still have a trade running on October 10th. It went 100%, so that was the price. So, and you can see where the buy and hold. So this is the algo performance, just going 150 of the portfolio. So it has some compounding, and you can see where buy and hold was during that period, from 2,308 to 1112. Well, the algo run from 2,308 to 25,299. So pretty good. And those are returns from the flip from 0 versus 100, 0 versus 50. Okay. And then Momo, I mean, you can see that Momo signal has been behind buy and hold by a little bit. And again, it's in live test. So has core, but this one's more demonstrable because I did a chart. But we're a little bit behind, but it's been a nice return. I mean, we still got a good nice return out of it, but we need a big drop for this one to start outperform buy and hold. Real quick on where I want to migrate the service, and then I'll go to the next set of questions. So we started August 2017. We had 3 long-term portfolios. We had 2 long-term portfolios, 1 alt, 1 majors. Gotten rid of that just because they just were not tax efficient, and I was putting myself in the place of I just don't think helping anybody, based on an experimental asset class, thinking we can hold it long term. So 2018 we dropped those, and then we added the nightly reports to help everyone get oriented around the long term. And then that's gone well, but we've had very difficult structure from then. I mean, for all of 2018, we got a little reprieve from terrible structure in 2019. We're back to it in 2020, although very strong, of course. And then that's when we started working on these 2 algos. I mean, now we're in 3. As we move into 2020, so I've called it Gen 2. I mean, Magic Bus is sort of my Gen 2 round. I mean, eventually we may put in a Gen 3 and Gen 4 and Gen 5. I have a candidate I'm calling it Core 2 right now. I have a candidate. I'm doing a lot more testing, and then I will eventually trade some of it live before I submit it or have you guys suffer through it. But it also not only has tested well on Bitcoin, but it's tested well on Ether. It doesn't mean that the trades are at the same time because the signals may fire based on the respective charts at different times, but may work. And then I've been working on a Link candidate. I don't know if this will fly because Link, and the reason I like Link amongst alts is because it has potentially long-term bullish chart if it can get through the current long-term diagonal and hold away 2. But I like it from that perspective because it is something that could live. The problem I have is that it doesn't do well in robustness tests, and we just don't have enough data. And then when I take some of the designs that we've had and we take them into simulation and stuff, they just don't show a lot of power walking forward. So we'll see. So I will probably trade one for a while and see how it works. Again, some of the requirements for these algos that those signals are a little bit manageable for posting in the service. That's super key. I have a really great Bitcoin futures scalping algo. I couldn't possibly post those signals. I have it running in TradeStation on futures, not with real money, and it performs fabulously right now. I cannot put it in the service because I could not keep up with the signals. So that's just an example. I mean, it's a kind of slowish signals that I can manage is part of the requirement, so I can post them in the tables and all that stuff. And then I have this idea of secondary option service. I mean, options in Bitcoin is kind of coming around. They have the CME options and then now Ledger X, and I am going to do a webinar for the service itself on how I'm using options and Bitcoin trading and talking about that so people have strategies. But it may be eventually that we have a secondary service. At least that's a dream space for me. If there's real demand, it would be an extra charge because I'd have to add the extra work. But I would love to add like a discounted service for those that are already members, and that in that service I would place option trades. That's a ways off. So again, this may feel like, wait, is he gonna do that early next year? Probably not. But I'm just giving you guys kind of my dream space, and eventually I would love to have like what Leo has in his service as some kind of a portal with some of these signals flying. There will be a lot of negotiation between myself and EWT, and then I don't know. I don't have any skills in web developing. I'm sort of getting a specialty set of coding skills to get me through my own trading and then building the service. So I'm really not an advanced coder at all, and getting help from friends, obviously. So, but this would be kind of a dream space to help with some of it. So, but I'm not going to promise when that will come to play. But that's kind of my roadmap. That's going to be kind of where I want to take it. Again, what I also want to make sure is you guys understand how to get success out of the service from where it's evolving. I've realized that there's been a lot of confusion as I migrate it. Why I haven't been doing a whole lot of swing trades in the portfolio based on Elliott wave action. Hopefully that cleared it up in terms of my take, and what I need to place a trade in the swing trade and whatnot. But honestly, I mean, the algo work has been, I don't know, it's been a great return for me, and I know I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the returns that we've gotten out of it. Any other questions? Could you please explain what your target price is for Link and in what time frame? Well, it depends. So Link is a large diagonal. It's not an impulse off of its start. And so I don't know whether it has topped in wave 3 of that diagonal or wave 5 is yet to come. I mean, sorry, if it topped in wave 5 or that wave 5 is yet to come and it topped in wave 3 that was around the $20 region recently. I mean, I called the top pretty well, but I don't know if that top is going to hold right now, to be honest. And so it is possible that it has a fifth wave up closer to 100. But I'm watching to see if it holds the channel. I don't have the chart. I'm not going to post it right now. It's in the service. But if it's in wave 2, it's going down to 3, because that would be the 382 retrace off of 20. So at 3, if we do get there, I would be buying big time and see if 3 holds. I mean, if it doesn't hold, then the 764 retrace is way down at 37 cents. I don't think it'll get there. I'll be very surprised, but still, this market always surprises. So that's a question. So it's a really unclear chart, although we get a lot of great scalps out of it. I mean, to me, I trade it short term. I don't trade it on the long term personally until it goes to an impulse. Again, anytime something is not an impulse, I don't trade that time frame. That's, again, back to understanding my bias. If something is not impulsive, I don't trade that time frame. I trade where the impulses are, or I trade other inputs like technicals or regular technicals or algo signals or whatever. So that's kind of where it is. It honestly right now that chart is a mess. But we have a trade running. I posted not a swing trade, but I posted a trade running right now, where we could potentially get to 17, and then we'll see what happens after that. If it's going to 17, it's either going to set up for 100, or it's going to set up for 3. And I don't have an edge on that from here because it's following overlapping structure for sure. Way more overlapping than Bitcoin. How does your algo program work? Do you simply post trades? Yeah, I mean, we can go to the service. So we can look right now. Is this gonna let me out? Yeah. So so you can go as a just to see where we're at. You can go Ryan swing portfolio. So you can see, so this is Momo. So on October 5th, posted at 11.16. So what are we at? 17 now. So that's why I had that 56% return or whatever. And these are a mix of, so if I put GBTC, it's just an Elliott wave based trade. If I put GBTC Momo, it's a algo trade. So you can see the mix there. And then like that, so that's a weird one. That's a premium trade. So you can see there haven't been many, like you can see, I guess there's been more in 20 than I remember. And then GBTC MB is GBTC Magic Bus. Okay. So hopefully you can see that. I should not put BitMEX on GBTC, but I did by accident. Okay, and then I'll run support like so. GBC Magic Bus is a trailing stop, so that's where we're at now. This is the stop to 50%, so you do have to read my posts. And then GBC Momo is arbitrary. I put support on there, but it's never going to get there because it's a algo in, algo out signal. And then when you go on the board, so go to cryptocurrency, so you could see the notifications here. So I was moving the stop. I got the stop wrong. I had to correct it up above, but moving the stop. Okay, so that's basically what it is. And so you can turn on notifications for the algo signals in and out, so you get a text as well. Sometimes one of the problems is I'm going to warn everyone. GBTC Magic Bus has a buy stop, and it's only if the 2-hour closes. So I'm going to post it, but if the 2-hour, you have to be aware of that. The 2-hour doesn't close above it, then it will not fire. Sorry, no. It's a buy stop. But if it doesn't get hit, I will delete it, and you don't get a notification if I delete it. That's the only thing people have to be worried about. So you got to know your algo and how it works, because the site is not designed to put details about an algo. It's kind of a generic format, and I'm using it as best I can, but that's what we have to work with. FYI, not public. I used a fake email for this webinar. I'm Frederick on EWT. I don't care. I don't do any of the sending out of the info and all that stuff. That's Thomas's department. So if you don't get anything, then but we'll get this presentation together for everyone to get a copy of it. So I understand if Elliot is almost useless. Don't say useless. I don't like saying useless. It has a difficulty with A equals C. Like, so to be really clear, when you have an ABC, what LE Wave does very well is target the symmetry, and then at the same time it can delineate the structure in the C wave. So don't call it useless, but what it doesn't do well is when you get an ABC, what's next? It could be another B and C. It depends on the context. Sometimes the context is super clear, but when you're dealing with the ranges we have in Bitcoin, and you're putting in these sorts of structures, and Bitcoin has a tendency to put a running flat or running or expanded flats, you can't call that ahead of time. Like you can't call triangles and diagonals from the first wave. You really can't. Like if it's a triangle, it's an A wave. You don't know if the rest is going to be a truncating A's and C's to get you those 5 more waves, or whether it's going to be sloping up as a diagonal. You cannot. And a lot of altcoins put in 3 waves. So now for me, I don't have a problem with that. I can trade it because I can adapt. I understand from technicals. I can watch it. But from a subscriber base, it's annoying because I changed my counts. But that's just reality. I mean, I'll use an example because I want to clarify this. Because a lot of people just don't understand this. When we were in the 2018 bear, all of these structures became impulsive off the bottoms. Okay, but then when I projected, let's see if I can get to a tighter version of it. But when I projected the impulse, what it did do is give us a clear stop, so we were out. But some people, when I projected impulse straight out, they followed that and expected it to go. And then when I said support broke and the impulse broke, they didn't get out. So for me, it got me to capture even just this stupid rally. I was able to capture it, and then get out before it failed because I'm religious about stops. So it's not useless, but in this structure, when you put in an ABC and then an ABC and an ABC, predicting that it would be a truncated triangle from here, it's not going to happen. Okay, it could not predict this structure ahead of time at all. All I can do is you get a breakout, or not a breakout, but a upward thrust, and that's impulsive, and all you can do is track that as an ABC until it breaks. Okay, and this was difficult because it's an impulse, but it was extended. It overextended versus pinball norms, but that's not so hard. I mean, we never broke any support, so you just ride it. Okay. This is an example here where we had a ABC, but we didn't know it was until it broke, okay? And so I know some subscribers didn't take the stop, okay? I can't control that. They were looking at this as being a breakout prediction, which I was tracking an impulse until it broke. But you have to, it's really important with Elliott wave to watch those stops. Now it's a different problem down here because the first wave off the low is 3 waves. This is 3 waves. No one can tell me that this is not 3 waves here. Okay, we can argue about whether this is a diagonal and a wave 2, but I have a problem with that based on the fibs. Okay, so but what it does now is it projects as a very clear C, but it's just a very large range based on this ABC. Okay, so that Elliott wave does very well, but it has to hold all the support in here. Okay, so don't call it useless, but if you want prediction off of a 3-wave structure, you know, and then watch when you get 3 waves and watch it turn around and break out off of a 3-wave top. Well, that's the difficult part with Elliott wave. Okay, I don't know if that explains it very well, but it's just challenging. So anyway, let's see. You have under what scenario can you ever use Elliott wave in Bitcoin? Because again, back to impulses. Like this back here is a clean impulse. Okay, so it overextended, but we never broke any of the support, so we just rode it. Okay, I mean those that are on the board. I mean I looked for tops when we were at extensions. Okay, but they never showed. They were not reliable. Never broke any support, so it works very well. Again, Elliott wave excels at clean impulses that follow norms. Same thing here. I mean, we broke out off of resistance, and it started fairly corrective looking, but once we were in the impulse, had a strong third. Now we just ride up support, and you know, again, there was no break of support, so you just ride it. And the same thing happens here. Like this is toppy to me, but again, I keep saying that it's not a top until we break support, which is 12.7. That support is really reliable, okay, from an Elliott wave perspective, okay? So from me, Elliott wave is extremely useful in crypto, but what it didn't do back here, is predict what this structure was going to be like. That's what it doesn't do very well, okay? And then when we had a 3-wave top here, it didn't do I figure we would get a deep B wave. Instead, we had a very shallow B wave. It doesn't predict that very well, and then we turned and broke out. Okay, that's another example of the struggle with Elliott wave and ABCs. Okay, I couldn't have predicted a shallow B wave. Just there's no way of doing that with Elliott wave. But again, the algo said 11,299. Get on board. So that's why we have it. I've been stalking your posts and posts by other related to GBC, and with today's well presented and explained webinar, I'll be signing up for service. Thank you, appreciate it. Let's make some money. You mentioned you can get the newbie info to me afterwards based on my question. Let me see. Yeah, let me just show you. Or I'll put the link in there, so you should be able to get this link. So Ryan, I think it's about crypto. Yeah. So visiting crypto beginners. This video right here. It's old now, but it still works. You just may have to adapt a little bit. I mean, you use some YouTube. Hopefully you can see this. Can I add this? It's not letting me add this to the box. I'm not sure why. Let's see. Can do handouts? Do this. Since I can't post a link, DM Thomas, Fred. DM Thomas in the room, and he'll get that to you. But I was talking about this video, primer on crypto trading. I think there's another one revisited. And then also, and you should get this whole link so you can look at it. So revisiting crypto trading for beginners. And then also I did securing your crypto, which you should read. It's a little old, but it's still valid. I mean, it's the basics, just the basic level, not advanced approach. All right, let's see. I'm a long-term holder starting at 300 and have bought 5,000, 10,000. Should I wait for the next break before buying more? It depends. Again, it depends what you, I don't give advice like this because I don't know you really well. Like this doesn't tell me that much, and I'm not your money manager, and I'm not licensed, so I can't do that. But again, if you want to hit 250, you know, your risk right now is 10.8. Okay, like if we break, well, let's give you more room. If we break the B wave bottom on this chart, which is at 9.8, well, then you have a risk of 5,000. If that breaks, then you got a risk of like 3,000. So just play it by levels, okay? I mean, level by level is the approach to trade. So, you decide what you're willing to risk if that breaks from here, okay? That's all you got to do. That's trading. Like there's no, you don't, but you have to literally, take that heartfelt, analyze your own brain and emotions and financial situation and say, okay, what am I willing to risk here with, the potential that it breaks, but right now there's no risk. In the service, I have tighter stops like 10-7. If you're in the service, you can decide what to do with that. But again, I can't tell you what your comfort level is. It just doesn't work. I mean, I can make advice, and I can get myself in trouble. So I just avoid it best I possibly can. But I do give you very clear levels to work with. What parameters do the algos use? What makes it better predict ABC? I can't tell you. And again, the reason I can't tell you is because I work in a team and we want to monetize some of that, and part of that is sharing the work, the value of that work with the other people that are working with me and helping me. But it is all momentum based. So, I mean, there's lots of ways of measuring momentum and volatility. And actually, GBTC has an adaptive entry based on volatility metric. So, again, it's and then the core have sort of a momentum increase and decrease. So to use an example, the difference, Elliott wave is based on a projection. So if I have a certain structure, here I have 3 waves and 3 waves back, then I can put my fibs, get this right here. So 0, 1, 2, and then I can project the A equals C, which is this box, okay? And the better A equals C is going to be the 100% extension, though I tend to put it on the 764, which is hidden. But so that 25K is my expected minimum, okay? But I like to put the box down to 764 in case you have a triangle, because a triangle will often hit that, okay? So that's Elliott wave. That's all it does. It's just a projection system. It's a reliable projection system. It's also a retrace system, meaning that if you have this wave pattern, then you should hold X, Y, and Z. Again, all of that's reliable, but what Elliott wave doesn't do very well is once you have 3 waves, where the next 3 waves ends. Okay, it just does not do that very well, because B wave, especially because a lot of times you find yourself in a B wave. Again, if you've been on Elliott wave trader long enough, you know how snaky those B waves are. They can be anything from deep to thin to break out over the top to whatever. That's the big reason why tracking ABCs in Elliott wave is difficult. The algos, they don't care. They're just measuring momentum and volatility. And we applied machine learning to all of them except for the core algo. I did run some Monte Carlo simulations on the core algo, but in terms of machine learning optimization, it's just testing basically the momentum and volatility in certain ways and producing signals. That's it. And it doesn't care whether there's a projection here or there. Doesn't matter. And it also doesn't predict where it's going. I mean, the algos don't. It just says that if you get on board this, you'll have some skew from a statistical standpoint. That's it. It's just raw sort of basically dumb statistics in terms of its past. Now, will it play out in the future? That's always the question. So we have to continually optimize the algo over time. So and watch out for it to kind of lose its edge, because that can happen as well. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, any last questions before I hang up? I don't see any. All right, guys. So I will process the recording. Crypto people will have it tonight, but I need to talk. Thomas, I don't have rights to post videos on the main site, so Thomas will get it by Monday, and you guys will get it. And then again, if anyone wants, what I will do is get this presentation together. I'll put those links for you, Fred, especially. I'll put that in here in case you want to not ask Tom. I will put it in there, and I'll ask Tom to get it out to everyone that's registered for this presentation. So that is it. I don't see anything else. Okay, we'll talk to you guys, and if you're in the service, we'll talk to you guys on the board. Talk to you later.